Introduction to Oracle Goldengate. In this webinar, we will be learning how to install Oracle Goldengate and how to basically understand the architecture of Oracle Goldengate. Along with that, we will be checking how to configure and how to work with Oracle Goldengate multiple processes, like for example, extract process, manager process, and so on. So let us start this webinar by understanding the architecture of Goldengate, and later we will be learning how to install Goldengate, and later we will be learning how to setting up different architectures of Oracle Goldengate, like for example setting Goldengate set up with the data pump process, using parallelism with Goldengate, and multiple setups, basically like bi-directional setup as well. So let us focus on Oracle Goldengate introduction for now. And so Oracle Goldengate 11G architecture. And about me, I'm Karan Dodwal, and I'm Oracle Certified Master, OCM, and I've been working with Oracle technology since a long time. I'm author of 14 author of 14 articles, and I'm a DB and a developer as well. Here are my social profiles on which I basically share information and my contact. So let us start. And about ourselves, we basically try to share knowledge, and we are apps DBAs, we are core DBAs. So the motive of basically all these webinars and everything is to share knowledge with the world and basically to make this world a better place. So let's start with the architecture of Goldengate. So in Goldengate, basically, it's an amazing software, taken by Oracle, and which is basically a replication from one place to another, source to the destination, or maybe, and then cascading to multiple destinations with basically a tremendous performance. So Oracle Goldengate basically offers very fast performance across the network. And so coming to the architecture of Goldengate, basically, if you see on the screen, basically we have multiple destinations. For example, consider let's take an example. For example, you have bank branches. You have one head office of a particular bank in London, and you have various branches in other cities, probably countries, and you would want to synchronize the information. Whatever changes are happening in multiple branches, you would like to synchronize those changes into the head office at tremendous performance. And how would you achieve that? Previous to Goldengate, Oracle used to offer a solution which was Oracle Streams, basically. But you can say yes, a lot of people, including us, faced some performance issues with Stream, but basically not the a complete solution along with performance and the problems which we faced in Streams. Like for example, some of the data types were not supported, and some of the RDBMS types were not supported. So Oracle Streams had some limitations, and that is why Oracle is not developing Streams anymore. But yes, Goldengate will be developed in future versions, and as of now, Streams is deprecated. It will not be developed from now onwards, although it is still available. And of course, Goldengate comes with a license, but Streams does not. So what basically happens in Goldengate, like we basically see on the screen, here we have a source destination and a destination target DB, source DB. So if you see here, there is an extract process, like you had a capture process in Oracle Streams, which used to capture the changes. Here it will be extract process. It captures the changes from redo log files, and basically, and it transfers the changes to the destination, which is target DB in this case. So if you see here, extract process basically is extracting the changes from the source database. And if you see here, there is an optional data pump process. If you configure data pump, there are a lot of benefits of data pump, which we will be learning today in this webinar, basically to have some advantages basically. So that we will be learning, in a while. So if you see here, extract process basically transfers the changes if assuming data pump is not configured, and in the destination collector process, which will receive the changes from the extract across the network, and then collector writes them to the trail file, and then finally the replicate will be applying the changes from the trail file to the target database basically. So so basically a replication happens at tremendous speed, assuming you have a good network, and you have enough resources like memory and everything, and of course you can have multiple extract processes and replicate processes to achieve parallelism, and to achieve complete CPU utilization. So yes, there are multiple options which we will be learning in this complete Goldengate webinar series. So like we see here, a secondary basically extract process. Primary will be the extract. So that's optional basically to configure a data pump, which Oracle recommends for several reasons. So called the data pump, basically it sends the data across the network to the target system. And like I said, on the target system, a server collector basically process, basically internally it reassembles and writes the data to an Oracle Goldengate trail, like I said, and a replicate process reads the trail and applies to the target database. And this can be concurrent with the data capture or performed later. And so if you see here, there is a manager process on both the sides. Now this manager process, basically you can say it's the heart and soul of Goldengate. If manager process is down, it's very difficult to proceed with the configuration and the replication. So it's very important, the manager process. So this manager process must be running on both the source as well as the target systems for extract and replicate to work in any case. And it performs a number of functions, like, for example, monitoring and starting the other Goldengate processes, like and even like extract and replicate, and even it manages the trail files and also the reporting part. And so basically covering the basic point, extract process will be basically in simple words will be the capture mechanism. And yes, we can configure DDL replication as well. We'll see later how to configure DDL, but that's a separate setup of DDL. So DML by default are sent, not DDL. So we have to set up DDL replication in Goldengate, of course. And so replicate basically will replicate the changes after it reads from the trail file. And collector will be receiving the changes, runs on the target system, and is started automatically by the manager, remember. So or basically it can be configured to start manually, which is a static collector. It receives basically the extracted data changes, which we have been discussing, and which are basically sent towards the network, which is the TCP/IP mechanism, and writes them to the trail files from where they are processed by the replicate process. Coming to the important part, data pump, if you configure. Like I said, this is optional, and if data pump basically is not used, then extract sends the data to the network, to the remote trail on the target directly. So that is the that is an issue basically. We'll discuss that why it's an issue. So so technically when data pump is configured, the primary extract process, the extract basically will write to the local trail, and then this trail is read by the data pump, and the data is sent over the remote trail on the target system over the network. So imagine if the data pump is not configured, then the data that the extract process basically, let's say the data which resides in memory alone, and there is no storage of this data anywhere on the source system. So let's say there is a failure, there's a network failure, or in case of let's say or even the destination system halts, for example, for a little while, let's say. There could be cases where primary extract process basically can abort, and basically it can abend completely. So data pump can also be useful in those cases where complex filtering and transformation of the data, as well as when we are doing consolidation from any source to a central target. So So basically, to avoid those kind of failures, the changes which are lost in memory, which could have been written to a disk, the trail file, and if there is a network failure, so to get rid of those failures, basically we configure data pump so that the in-memory changes, let's say for example, are written to the disk, the local trail immediately, and later if the network fails, let's say, the data pump process can synchronize with the destination. And that is why it is recommended by Oracle to configure the data pump process, and which is a best practice. It comes in the best practice of Oracle Goldengate. So this is the first series, the first webinar of Goldengate. First webinar of all of Goldengate. So we will not be covering much details. Yes, basically it's an introduction of Goldengate. We'll be covering advanced and multiple things in the following webinars of the series of this Goldengate. So basically, so let us now understand basically how to do the installation practically. So let's log in to the system, and if you see here, I have Oracle Home. Basically, I will go to the Oracle Home, and I'll be configuring two directories basically. So we can configure basically create the directories through command prompt. mkdir, we have two databases, Ammer and Euro, so we can configure them here, both the Goldengate homes on the same location, on the same directory, and we have two databases. So here is the software basically kept on the desktop. You can copy this either through command line or either through the graphical mode. So we have the software ready with us, and so I'm going to go to this directory here, and I'm going to unzip the software. So this will be my Ammer home basically. So what we have the basically set up over here is basically the Ammer database, which will be the source database, and Euro database, which will be the destination database. So basically this is my Ammer home, let's say, and here is kept the Goldengate software. I've unzipped it, and now is the time to untar this particular complete software, and here it is. We are ready now, and I'm going to log in with Goldengate prompt. GGSCI is the command line for Goldengate. So I'll create the subdirectories. All the directories are created now. If you see here, there are multiple directories basically. Each serve its different purpose. I'm going to open the second terminal, and I'm going to go to the Euro home, which is the the destination database home. So here is the database kept here. I'm going to unzip this software now. This is for the destination. Unzip basically, and after unzipping the Goldengate software on the destination Euro, I'm going to untar this. So basically, the same way which we did for the source database, and log into the Goldengate command line, and here it is. We are ready. Create the subdirectories. Subdirectories are created. Goldengate is ready, and I'm going to set up the Ammer home, and here I'm going to set up the Euro home, or env Euro, so that I can log into the Goldengate prompt with the database SID set and the home location. And so just for just for understanding, I'm going to name the terminals here. I'm going to write here Ammer, so that you can get to know what we are doing, on which terminal we are working on. This is Euro, right? So let's start the databases. I'm going to start the listener first. Listener is started. I'm going to start the database first. Here we start the Armor database. So the Armor database is started. I'm going to name the terminal as well, Armor. I'm going to open the another terminal. So I'm going to set up the Oracle Home and SID. I'm going to name the terminal as well, Euro. And so we are all set. So the Euro database is also started. Right. And so we are started. We've started the database. Fine. So we are all set now, and Goldengate is installed, and we are ready to do the configuration of basically the replication between two databases, but that in a different webinar. Here we will be covering basically the basic concepts of Goldengate, and here we will just learn basically how to configure the master process, which is the manager process. Okay, now coming back basically, so this is how you install Goldengate basically, guys, and this is how you set up Goldengate in multiple homes for the source and destination. Coming back to the basic, coming back to the fundamental, as this webinar will cover the basics, like I said. Advanced we will cover in the next webinar. So there are multiple commands basically. Goldengate command line interface. Basically you can add a manager, you can you can, sorry, not the manager, but the extract. If you see the check mark, you can add an extract with add syntax. This is, remember the syntax. So you add an extract, add a replicate, add trail, ext trail, local trail, remote trail, and so on. Checkpoint table, CRAN data, trace table, and so on. You alter an extract, but you can't alter the manager, basically. So this slide basically will tell you all. It will tell you everything, what is possible with syntax, and that is a complete slide, complete reference. You can take a picture of this. It's amazing, and it helps you with everything. So there will be multiple commands. All these are the commands of Goldengate, and we will be covering everything in the upcoming webinars. As I said, this is the introduction, so we'll stick to the basics. And by the way, for your information, you can go online and read the Oracle Goldengate documentation, download them. You can have a look at a quick install guide, installation setup guides, admin, reference, troubleshooting and tuning, and you can download the documentation from this particular basically link for your benefit and for your reading. And so coming back to the basics architecture of Goldengate, basically. Well, what basically happens is in subsequent topics which we'll be doing, we will see that we will be adding a checkpoint table at the destination, which will basically help. Checkpoints basically will help during the complete online chain synchronization, the replication, which will be used. Basically the checkpoints will be used to store the current read and write position of a particular process. Okay, so basically like the replicate, where it's reading a particular change information, and checkpoints basically will make sure that the changes are marked for the synchronization, basically, and they are extracted in a proper manner, basically in a commit sequence order. The SCM number, the commit SCM order in which they are replicated. So it maintains this sequence, the commit sequence number, and they provide basically the fault tolerance if something goes wrong. they prevent the data loss of the system, the network, the Golden Gate, process if they need to be restarted, basically like the capture, the replicate, or the data pump. Okay, so we will be just looking at which directory holds this information completely. And so basically, like I said, basically internally, in Oracle, a SCN number will be used. Basically, you can call it a commit sequence number, CSN. So basically, it's an identifier which Oracle uses in every RDBMS, even other RDBMS. You can name SQL Server, Sybase, and other RDBMSs. So it's an identifier, basically, this commit sequence number, which Oracle uses to identify transaction, basically, to maintain transaction consistency and data integrity. Okay, so like I said, it captures this information about at what a particular number this particular transaction was committed, and represents internally in a series of bytes. But basically, the commit sequence number is processed in an a platform independent manner, a comparison basically of any two numbers, each of which which is bound to a transaction commit record in the same log stream. Reliably, basically it indicates the order in which two transactions are completed. I'll give you an example. Let's say, guys, you must be thinking how basically this commit sequence number works. For example, there are 5 transactions which started either simultaneously or at a different timestamp. However, Oracle will make sure basically the order in which they're committed. Oracle will make sure these transactions are replicated in their commit sequence order. Okay, not when they were started. For example, a transaction started at 4 p.m. and it never committed this particular transaction. However, there was a transaction which started at 4:15, 15 minutes later than the first transaction, and immediately it committed. So obviously, the second transaction will be committed first. So this is what I'm trying to say, that it maintains the orders in which some transactions gets completed. So that's how basically the checkpointing and commit sequence number, the SCN number, the unique numbers are used basically. Okay, so basically in simple words, what is the purpose of checkpointing, guys? Basically for recovery. If a Golden Gate process, like for example any extract process or any other process, or even network, or even the complete system goes down, this is the idea of checkpointing. That when the system fails or network fails, from which particular commit sequence number, from which number the let's say replicate process, let's say for example, should start reading from the remote trail file, because a extract process will be capturing the changes. Let's say data pump will be shipping the changes if you have configured data pump, and on the destination remote trail, or from the remote trail, the replicate process will be reading. So where it will be reading, that is very critical. So from where it will read, should it read from, let's say, commit sequence number 111 or 115? Because let's say 115 should be read, because all the changes till 114 are already applied to the data files, to the database. So why start applying changes from 111 or maybe 112, because till 114 they have already been applied. So that's basically, you can call it a checkpoint position. Okay, the checkpoint SCN number, you can call it from the the traditional Oracle, but not to confuse with that checkpoint. Yes, from this number, Oracle will start applying the changes in the destination database. So let us see how to configure a manager process basically. So coming back to our command, basically our command prompt, how we will configure basically a manager process. Let's see. So I'm going to basically use a parameter file. So let's say edit parameter manager. So I'm going to configure a parameter file, and I'll use the VI editor. I'm going to use a port number. Let's say I'm going to use 18001, and let's say user ID. I have, let's say, a Golden Gate administrator by the name of let's say any name, let's say Karan, password K, and I'm going to use, let's say, a particular parameter, let's say purge old extracts. We will be I'll be explaining what's the meaning of this parameter. Basically, purging the trail file, the extract which has already been applied. So I'm going to say yes, this is my Goldengate home directory, and this is my basically dir dat. This is my directory where the local trail file will be kept, and I can write here star, keep purging the trail files, use checkpoints, and that's it. So in this case, I have to configure either grant DBA to Karan identified by. I'll configure a Goldengate administrator now, the user, and DBA privileges are enough, and I'm going to log in. So this is how you configure the Goldengate administrator. All you need to do is just to give the DBA role, password. Well, I'm logged in now successfully. Please note that, and just check the manager status. Manager is down. I'm going to start the manager now. So if everything is fine, I get the status. So perfect. Manager is running on node4.oracle.com, and this is the port number like we have checked, and this is the host name in node4.oracle.com. And this is how you will be configuring the manager for the destination at the DB login, user ID, password, and info manager. So we can check the parameters, guys, of manager as well. And I'm going to copy these parameters, go to the remote Euro home DB login user ID. But here, the administrator is not configured, I guess. It is configured. So, or maybe we can use a different name, let's say. We can use a different name in the destination. Grant DBA to, let's say, or let's say we can configure it once again, just to show you. Drop user Karan cascade. I can log out from here because the user Karan already has a DBA role in my database. So I'm going to give it a fresh user, grant DBA to Karan, just to make you understand that from the scratch how to configure a Goldengate administrator. Grant DBA to Karan identified by. Just a moment, there's a typo. So basically, you can create a user with the grant command, new feature of 11G. Welcome, guys. And so I'm going to log in again. I'm going to say DB login user ID, Karan, password. So I'm going to use my parameter file. Remember I copied the changes from source manager parameter file. I'm going to change the port number 18002, let's say, and I'm going to change the home here. Fine, we are ready. Start the manager, info all to check the status of all the processes. Manager is running also on destination. So congratulations, guys. This is all about the first webinar from apps and core DBAs. Basically, we try to share our knowledge, and thank you so much, and we will see you in the next webinar of Goldengate series. Thank you so much, and have a good day ahead.